Hey guys, welcome back to Magic City Entertainment. Hopefully you guys are doing great today. So today I want to discuss with you guys what makes a great anime game. To me personally, I think there are three key essential things to make a great anime game. Number one is story. I'm going to give you an example of anime game that does not have a great story. I know a lot of people talk about this game, Jump Force. Jump Force story was god awful. Just god awful. You're gonna hear me talk about Jump Force a lot, which I really don't want to, but I have to. Because Jump Force was that game that could have set the bar a little bit higher for all anime games. But anyway, Jump Force story was not very good. There was actually no real story behind it actually at all. And I feel like an anime game needs a good story to follow. Like for example, Naruto Ninja Storm. It follows the anime to a T, and it tells it in such a good way. It tells you through cutscenes, but in video game form. So say for example, you never played Naruto, never watched Naruto, but you're like, yo, let me just play this game. You will understand and you can grasp a little bit of the story just by playing the game. And it's not even about gameplay itself. It's by telling a very good story. Story for anime games need to be interesting. If you're making a anime game that's completely not based off a manga or a TV show or anything like that, the story needs to be very interesting. It needs to be depth. Doesn't need to feel like it's a repetitive story that we've already seen. And we've had a lot of anime games do that. You know, they've given us mediocre anime games that aren't the greatest, that aren't the best. You know, anime games are pretty big, and people who love anime, like myself, would love an anime game to be really, really well done, like taken slow, not rushed, not put out there, not too soon. And unfortunately, that's happened a little bit too often with a lot of anime games. For me personally, story needs to consist of the characters being broken down, not rushed, having key moments, having just stuff that makes it feel like it's a very valid story. It doesn't feel like, oh, I've already heard this story before, I'm not very interested in it. We want something new and original and fresh when it comes to anime games, because lately we haven't gotten that. We have not. And it sucks, because I feel like anime games could really be up there with, non-anime games. But unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they don't take a lot of time when it comes to developing the characters, getting the right locations and stuff like that. It's just, I feel like things are just being rushed and put out just for money. And it shouldn't be that way. You should do, I'm not saying they don't do that. I'm not saying anything like that at all. I'm just saying it feels like that. Number two, characters. I definitely think characters are very important when it comes to making a good anime game. You need the characters to be believable. For example, Jump Force characters were not very believable. The characters models did not look very great at all. At all. Goku didn't look good, Frieza didn't look good. No one really looked like the good parts that you would love to see. Give you an example of good character looking anime games. Naruto, JoJo Bizarre Adventure, what else? There's just so many. There's so many. There isn't actually a lot of anime games out there per se. So it's hard to really put some examples of good anime games. I'm not saying a lot of them are bad. I just wish they could be a lot better, especially when it comes to characters, because most anime games characters are not very interesting. They're not. It feels like it's a wash and repeat, and you hate to say that about any type of game. For example, look at One Punch Man. One Punch Man had so much potential to be a really fun game, really good game. You had the opportunity to create your own character, follow the story through your character's eyes. But sadly, that game flopped really bad just because the story wasn't good. The character models looked decent. It wasn't like they were bad, but it just didn't feel like a One Punch Man game. I felt like One Punch Man could have been a open world game, make your own character. It was an open world, but it didn't really feel like an open world in a way. Like, it could have been an open world where you're running around and boom, you find a monster. You're like, oh, but maybe it's too high level for you. You're like, oh, I can pass up on them and go somewhere else. But this game didn't have that. It was a fighter game, which I think One Punch Man could have been a good fighter game if it was balanced correctly, because One Punch Man was overpowered. And that's another thing. You don't need a character to be overpowered in the game itself. You could, but you can find a way to make it balanced in a way. Just like how Naruto had it. There are characters who are overpowered, but you have characters that can counter that character to make it even. And in One Punch Man, they didn't have that. There was no real character that can kind of counter Samato that well. So characters are very important when it comes to making a good anime game. In any game, period, you need great characters. You need them to be really good voice acted. You need to make sure they feel believable to where the fans can relate to them. I'm not just saying that these games don't have it. I'm just saying lately it has been lacking that. It's been lacking a lot, and it sucks because I'm a huge anime fan, and I would love to see an anime game, just one anime game to come out to make a perfect game with story, characters, and number 3 is gameplay. Oh God, I can't stress this enough. Gameplay, it's so important, super important. Yes, you can have a great story, you can have great characters, but if the gameplay sucks, itself, it's a fail. It's a fail. You can get away with having a great story, great characters, and all that, but if your gameplay is trash, people are gonna let you know the gameplay is trash. And that lately, that has been the key factor to why anime games have honestly been very bad lately. Jump Force. I know, and I hate to keep referencing Jump Force, but Jump Force was that game that hyped it up like, oh, this is going to be the next shonen game that everybody's going to want to play with a whole bunch of other characters. You got Naruto, Sasuke, My Hero characters, All Might, Bakugo, Deku. You have all these characters in one big game. But one thing that really failed? There was a lot of things that failed with that game, but one major thing was the gameplay. The gameplay was unbalanced. It was super unbalanced. A lot of stuff were happening on the screen. A lot of moves took up half the screen, or maybe even the whole screen. Like that game was just unbalanced, super unbalanced. One game that I felt was, to me, the gameplay was very smooth was Attack on Titan 1 and 2. 1, it did have issues. 2, it still had issues as well. But the gameplay just felt so good to play. So freaking good to play. Like, it felt like I was one of those people out there killing all these Titans. Because all the skills you get, the weapons you can craft and all that. I mean, the gameplay was outstanding to me. But lately, we just haven't gotten that tier of gameplay lately. And it sucks. Because gameplay is pretty big when it comes to any game, in general, any game. Gameplay is huge. You need gameplay to be almost like the main focus. Yes, story is pretty much what people love to have, as well. But I think if you have the right combination between story and gameplay, you can succeed. You can literally get past all the other stuff. Literally, I think if Jump Force story was bad, we get past that. Period. We can get past any game that has bad story. But if the gameplay is fire, we're okay. We're good. But it just wasn't. And it's sad to see because that game could have set the bar so high, super high, for any anime game that gets made. Because everybody were comparing it. You see how Jump Force did it? If they would have just done it like Jump Force, this game could have been fire. But I think Jump Force could have learned things from how Naruto did it. Naruto's games were perfect. They had their issues, but they still were great to play. They were fun to play, actually, because the gameplay was very interesting. It didn't feel like it was repetitive or anything. And that's what a lot of fighting anime games have come down to. There's a lot of fighting games and anime games. We really haven't got a truly open world anime game. There was One Piece. But that game wasn't the greatest either. It had its issues. The thing about that game was, the story was not bad. The story was told very well. Gameplay was at best. But man, was that whole area just boring. And the gameplay did feel very repetitive at times. So it just like, you gotta find that right balance. Now we have a new Demon Slayer game coming out, which we don't know too much about. We don't know if it's gonna be an arena fighter, open world game. We just don't know. But the possibilities are endless. The possibilities are endless with any anime game. But I think one thing that can make Demon Slayer so successful is that I think it shouldn't do an arena fighter. I feel like we have enough anime arena fighter games. We don't need any more. We need something different, something that could really set the bar high for anime games in general. Like, I think Demon Slayer needs to go open world. You know, not even like fully open world, maybe like a semi-open world type of game. You can make your own character, you know, just how Attack on Titan did it. The second one, you create your own character, you follow the story through your character's eyes, but you're still in the story in a way. So it feels like you're kind of invested in it because you made a character that's going through the story through your person's eyes. You know, and I feel like Demon Slayers could do that as well. You know, I mean, that would be great. Honestly, that would honestly be cool. But we just wouldn't know until it actually comes out. There's another game that's done it very well, which is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Yeah, that gameplay does still feel kind of repetitive because the moves are still the same, and that's one thing that kind of sucks with that game. Everything else is good. The story is told very well, but the gameplay did feel repetitive at times. It was still fun to play, but very, very repetitive at times. I mean, there are a lot more other things I think can make a great open world, a great anime game. But that's a lot to cover, honestly. I didn't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to get like 3 major things that I think that can make a great game, at least a great anime game. I hope that, you know, they eventually do make one that's like outstanding, that takes the cake, that takes the crown, and sets the bar so high that anime games look at them like, yo, we gotta do what they do. We gotta make our game as good as theirs. And I think that's what they need. I think anime companies, they need a competition. You know, they need to be able to compete against each other, you know? And then that's gonna make other anime games more better for us, because we can just look at it like, yo, this anime game's got to be really good. Because it's got the story, it's got the gameplay, and it's got the characters. Like, My Hero could have been that game too. You got the characters already. You know, you got the show, you can build up the characters in the game as well. You got the gameplay. The gameplay is endless. Endless. Story is endless as well. They could have done an open world My Hero Academia game where you create your own character, make your own quirk, you know, you go through the story through your character's eyes. Like that, I think that would have been cool. That would have set the bar so high for other games. They'll be looking at like, oh, so they did this. Okay, we can take a little bit from that game, put it in our game, but make it even better. So I hope they do that. But I mean, what do you guys think? Because I want to know what you guys think. What are key things to make a great anime game or any game in general? For me, story, gameplay, and characters. Those are my 3. There are probably way more out there. I would love to hear from you guys. Drop it in the comment section. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.